Hey guys, Dr. Kurt here, and what I want to talk about is kind of the reality of when the stress is done, like don't expect to feel good. I think that's a misnomer that a lot of people have is that they know they're in a bad season. Maybe it's just the holidays we came through, maybe it's something else, work, relationships, whatever it is. And they're just holding on to the fact that, like, hey, once I'm done with this season, things are going to get a lot better. And what I kind of want to do is just burst that bubble. Oftentimes things aren't better. What ends up happening is that stress has now set the stage for things to get worse. So let me explain this a little bit. Like, stress is like a storm to me. So it's just because the storm is gone, it doesn't mean you're in the clear. And so it could be a hurricane, tornado, whatever, wildfires, all those types of things. Like, we batten down the hatches, we prepare hard to make sure we survive that storm. And we're praying and we're hoping for the end of that storm, because once it's over, we're going to celebrate, we're going to rejoice. The problem is when the event is done, now we have a ton of damage. And so, yes, we survived the immediate storm, but the things we are holding on to aren't going to be working as they normally need to. So, like, if it's your house, for example, like the roof may be ripped apart, windows busted open, foundation cracked, you name it. And so for your health, it's really no different. Like, as you go through a stressful event, just because that event is done doesn't mean you're necessarily going to immediately get healthy. And why that's happened is because the stress is going to be that storm. And instead of the house being broken down, it's your cells. And that's all we are. We're just a collection of whatever, 70 to 100 trillion cells. And so the more stress, the longer it's prolonged, um, what ends up happening is now our cells, so our foundation, they get damaged. And so it's going to be dose dependent. The more stress, the more damage. And what makes it even worse is during stress, people usually eat worse. They don't exercise. They're not doing the things that naturally take care of themselves to mitigate some of that damage. Those go out the window because they're so focused on what the immediate need is. But where that stress now becomes a prolonged aspect is when cells are damaged, there's a number of things that happen. Like, one is going to be inflammation, because this is just your cleanup crew. And again, inflammation is not a bad thing. It's dose dependent. It's there to help you heal, repair, recover, clean up, all those fun stuff. The problem is, if we have continued cell damage, more inflammation gets released. And as more inflammation signals for more inflammation, that can actually be a cause of more cell damage. So it's just kind of a catch-22 type of thing. The other thing that happens is during stress is we try to get out of danger really fast. And if you're exercising, you need to get from point A to point B really fast. You don't walk, you don't pace it. What you do is you sprint. And long enough, you start building up that lactic acid, you start feeling the burn in your muscles. And that's because you've switched to making energy with lack of oxygen, called anaerobic respiration. And again, short term, this is phenomenal. It can get you out of danger really quick. But most stress seasons are going to be longer. And so what ends up happening is, as we switch more to anaerobic respiration, we are using more energy than we're actually creating on the back end. And so now we have this lack of energy, and don't think just fatigue energy wise, but like our currency to run everything in the body. Now we have to get more resources to support that. So the body starts breaking down. This is that catabolic activity. Now, it could be your muscles, it could be your gut, whatever it is, it's going to look for easy resources to fill that gap of energy. And so then that starts breaking down cells even more. And then those contents spill out. And this is where we have oxidative stress. And again, oxidation is not a bad thing. It's just dose dependent. The more we continue to damage, the more we continue to go overboard with things like inflammation, anaerobic, catabolic activity, and oxidation. Now, the thing is, we don't really usually feel this. When we start to feel it is when it gets on a bigger scale. And this is where we start looking at systems overload. And so this is where most people are feeling some sort of being off. They're not with it. They're not just firing on all cylinders. And one of the systems that gets disrupted, and usually the first, is neuroendocrine. Like, your brain has pushed your body into a state of protection. So this will heighten hormones that get you out of trouble while sacrificing ones that will leave your legacy. So during stress, most people are like, oh, my libido is down. can't get pregnant, those types of things. Like that's totally normal. And that's actually very intelligent because that's wasted energy to get you out of danger. Now, when that gets overloaded, now the gut comes in and says, great, I can back up. I can help you out, provide protection, but I'm going to do this by switching the gut more towards an immune expression away from digestion. And when we talk about the immune expression within the gut, that's things we don't usually feel. It's kind of like a silent attack. And then lastly, the liver's like, great, the immune system's on alert. What I'm going to do then is help out. And this is basically this is the big inflammatory producer, the liver, but at the expense of detoxification. And then once all three systems are hit, that's when people are like, they're just tanked out. Like symptom wise, fatigue is going to be huge, but think during the stress, the big things are also going to feel is that maybe that knee pain that you had surgery on 20 years ago starts to flare up and you're like, I didn't do anything. Or maybe again, like libido is going to go down. You start to feel fatigue. Who knows? Like your hair and nails start to get sacrificed because like, hey, those aren't important. It's not going to serve me better to look pretty while I'm running faster. Now, this is why you're hoping for the stress to end, because you're like, hey, once that's gone, libido will come back, energy will come back, hair and nails will come back, you name it. But the issue is that now the stress is gone, you're in safety. The other things your body has been suppressing now start to get surfaced. So this may be the viruses, the colds, the runny nose, the diarrheas, the digestive discomfort, you name it. So it's not a immediate health improvement once the stress is over. Now, the body can heal itself. That's the basic principle of what we operate here. But a lot of times it needs guidance. It needs help breaking those cycles. It needs a sequence and a system of attack for this types of things. So if you're coming out of a super stressful season, or if you're in the middle of one, actually now is probably one of the best times to kind of build a bigger bucket. So when that season is done, you're not totally depleted. So if you need help, give us a shout at drkurtzplace.com, where we can help you get more energy so you can lead, serve, and go dominate. So until next time.